My son is going into grade 5, and he has some learning disabilities, and we've had him tutored for 2 years, and he's still behind on his reading. He's a really smart kid, but he has a really hard time getting what's in his brain out on paper. And
our daughter, Sarita, was born with a myriad of challenges. The issue of her having problems or issues that she has to confront is something that we've been dealing with for 5 years.
We learned at an early age that Graham had a speech impediment problem because he didn't speak like most kids would at an early age. He was not at the same level of the other kids.
I think there aren't a lot of options. They're really hard. Because the essential problem actually in all kids like this has to do with self-esteem. If you go later, you go in life as kids working through school and they can't read or be good in math or whatever it is, their self-esteem diminishes, and without self-esteem, it's really hard in life.
School was started by first one mom and then 3 other moms, all of whom had sons who were struggling learning to read.
So I think that, being in a school where children have similar issues against being in a school where, it's a much wider spectrum, he's just able to cope better because it's smaller class sizes and the workload is set for him to feel that he can meet it.
I think the student-teacher ratio is just so fabulous for math and language arts. 5 to 1. How can you compare to 30 to 1 in the public school system?
They have tutoring every day, or private tutoring every day. They also have a staff that I was told, which over almost 50% of it are teachers whose kids who've gone through Kenneth Gordon or have had similar issues. So the issue has to do with empathy, and you can see it in John, the principal's demeanor and the way he talks about things and his passion. The empathy they have for the kids is really extraordinary.
Well, I really think that right now he's in a large class and he's the kid that needs extra help, and he's the kid that's kind of a little bit of a problem. And now he's going to be in a class where he's just one of the kids. And in the public school system, I think there's teachers that understand learning disabilities and others that don't so much. And the teachers here have chosen to work with kids with learning disabilities, and so they understand, and that'll be just great for him.
And typically when kids come here, that self-esteem recovers in a matter of a short few number of weeks. When kids come here, typically they come here, they're here for 3 weeks or so, and the parents are reporting, I've got my son back or I've got my daughter back, because their self-esteem is recovered. And frankly, we haven't really taught them much in those first 3 weeks, but I think the release of being in an environment where they felt dumb, where every day they go to school and they feel like they're learning things, and where the structure is supportive and the teachers are supportive and it's positive, that helps. And then the learning starts to take place, because as long as they are convinced they can't learn, it's a self-fulfilling thing.
I don't know, there's a really neat positive atmosphere when you come in the school. When my son came for a tour, he loved the people. It really put him at ease because the teachers were friendly, the kids came up to him and were friendly, you know. Yeah, there was, and they do neat things, like there's the statue of the bear in the front hall that they painted, and he's always loved those, looking at those all over the city. And next year they're doing an eagle, and you know, they do some neat things like that. So it's a really positive atmosphere.
There are very few children in the world that that actually present as that's their only problem. There are very few children whose only learning glitch is a phonological processing deficit. It tends to be they have that, plus they might have some issues with working memory, which is the ability to hold a number of things in your head and manipulate them. They also struggle with that. They may have problems with visual tracking, which confuses things because they're trying to follow the text on the page and they're skipping lines and things like that. So there can be a number of cognitive processes that collectively interfere with a child's ability to learn, and most kids do tend to come to us with a collection of those things. But nevertheless, most of the time, the basic instructional strategies we use will be helpful for all of those, or at least we can modify our instructional strategy so that it's helpful for those kids.
Imagine yourself, you're in a public school system with 30 kids and the teacher's stretched to cope as it is, let alone deal with someone who has some special needs. So we're lucky to have this school, and it didn't exist in my generation.
The day that I got the phone call from Kenneth Gordon to say that Graham had been accepted into the school, that there was place for him, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I think I burst into tears because I was just so happy and relieved that there was a place for him to go where he would be able to have a new beginning, and a place where he would have the help that he needed to learn to read and write. And for me, that was just a great feeling.
Through, and I think this year we had 32 children, where between the parents and the school, we said, yeah, these are kids that really should be back in their home school. We go through a ceremony where we say goodbye and they'll receive a certificate and so on, and we have a celebration, because it is a celebration when kids leave here and they've gone back to their home school. I encourage parents and families that have concerns about their child's learning and with what's happening with their school to investigate all options. Make the connection, make the phone call, come down and have an interview or a conversation with me, tour around the school and see how the children are doing and the services we offer, and armed with that information, try and determine what's the best thing for their child as they move forward.